There was a morning last winter when I woke up and realized I couldn't remember whether I'd said yes to something I deeply didn't want. My chest tightened, and all I could think was, what season am I in? Welcome. I'm Pami Parker, and this is the Self-Care Cafe.
Here at the cafe, we take a gentle pause from the noise and sit with questions that help us feel steadier. Today, we're mapping inner seasons, a simple, kind way to notice what's happening inside during transitions. I'm happy to be with Dr. Mira Santos, who brings narrative therapy and contemplative practice into everyday tools. Mira, hello. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Pami. It's a pleasure to be here in this gentle space. I love the image of waking and asking that little question. It already sets a tone of curiosity.
Quick question, Mira. Why does a simple frame like inner seasons actually help when we feel unmoored? Some folks hear metaphor and think, is that too light? What do you say to that?
Great question. In plain terms, naming something gives you a pause. Studies in emotion science show that putting a word to a feeling reduces immediate reactivity and creates a few seconds to choose a response. Practically, that looks like saying, this is grief, instead of snapping at someone, which can change your next move. A seasonal image simply makes that label compassionate and non-permanent. It's a weather report, not your whole identity.
I hear you. That idea of weather versus identity, that already feels like a relief. Can we walk through the seasons with a couple of short, concrete examples so listeners can spot signals more easily?
Absolutely. Winter often looks like low energy, wanting to withdraw, heavy limbs, or foggy thinking. A common scenario, after a job change, someone keeps trying to power through but ends up exhausted. Naming it winter invites containment, small safety anchors like extra rest, shorter days, or a permission to say no. That reminds me of a composite I often hear. A woman who thought she needed to be productive after a layoff, but when she mapped it, she realized she needed rest. Giving herself a single 3-day pause kept her from burning out for weeks. Simple, surprising, right? Exactly. Spring usually shows up with curiosity and small experiments, a wobble between hope and doubt. Energy is uneven. Needs are encouragement and safe chances to try something tiny. Summer is more expansive. Outward focus, creativity, social energy, and a real need to protect boundaries so momentum doesn't turn into depletion. Autumn carries assessment and letting go, a ripening that asks for clarity and a symbolic release. Right, so every season has gifts and risks. Quick interruption. Some listeners might worry that calling something winter becomes an excuse for hiding. How do we hold both compassion and accountability? Valid worry. The frame isn't meant to justify avoidance. It's meant to clarify. Is this rest for healing or avoidance that increases harm? That's why the map includes a tiny next step tied to values, something little and honest. Naming gives direction. Instead of drifting in vague rest, you choose a kind step that aligns with who you want to be. Thank you. That practical anchor matters. Let's shift into the mapping practice now. If you can, have a pen and paper or a note app. We'll make a 2-column map. Left column for signals, body, emotion, thought, and right column for needs, releases, and one small next step. If anything feels intense at any time, pause and breathe, or come back later. This is reflection, not pressure.
Close your eyes if that feels safe. Take a breath in and let it go. Notice your body right now. Where is there tension or ease? Name one physical signal quietly to yourself.
Now, notice what emotion sits nearest the surface. It might be tiredness, curiosity, grief, or something mixed. Give it one word, even if it's messy. Listen for a common thought or story running through your mind. Is it a worry, a plan, an old script? Jot that down beside your physical and emotional notes.
Now, without overthinking, which season does this cluster most resemble? Winter, spring, summer, or autumn? Trust your first impression. You don't have to get it perfect.
If what you named feels like winter, a kind next step could be a small safety anchor, 10 minutes of rest, a short walk at a gentle pace, or a boundary you give yourself for the next 24 hours. If spring, choose one tiny experiment, 5 minutes of creative play, or a short message to a friend. For summer, pick one clear limit to protect your energy. For autumn, name one thing you can release, even symbolically.
Write down, what does this season ask you to tend? What might you gently release? And what's one tiny, values-aligned step you can take in the next day or two? Keep it small and kind. If resistance comes up, thoughts like, I should or I have to, name that resistance without judging it. That noticing is useful. Say to yourself, I notice the should, and then return to what would be both kind and honest right now. One practical example, someone might feel irritable and think they need to do more, but when they name the feeling as grief and map it, they choose a small ritual of release instead of frantic activity. That single shift often prevents a cascade of reactive choices.
That's helpful. Small ritual over frantic doing. I like that. After this practice, people often notice two things. Surprise. Oh, I'm actually in autumn. And relief. Having a tiny step that feels honest instead of overwhelming. Mira, what are other common discoveries you hear? Many people realize the thing they were reaching for, constant busyness or distraction, wasn't what actually helped. Naming the season softens self-blame and makes a compassionate, practical choice possible. And importantly, if the mapping brings up intense grief or overwhelm, it's a sign to slow down and consider reaching out to a trusted therapist or support person. This tool supports reflection and small steps, not clinical crisis care.
As a tiny practice to try today, at a natural transition, when you finish a cup of tea or step out the door, ask 2 quick questions. What season am I in? And what is one small kind step I can take right now? That short pause can change the tone of the next hour.
We've also made a printable 2-column mapping sheet, so you can carry this practice with you. It makes the exercise portable and repeatable.
If this landed for you, visit our show page to download the mapping sheet and a short journaling prompt to extend today's practice. Try the micro practice once today. Pause at a transition, name your season, and choose a tiny kind step. Come as you are. Leave nourished.
Thank you for listening.